Hi, this is Doug Ward from Tech Britain. Today we're really excited to be meeting Gareth Williams from Skyscanner, CEO. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah,
it's a real pleasure to meet you. So, you know, I'm sure our audience back home know all about Skyscanner. If they don't, you know, you need to. Can you let our audience know a little bit about yourself and what's happening at Skyscanner, and obviously what Skyscanner is?
Sure. Skyscanner is a flight search engine. We show all flights in the world, every airline, and we aim to show it as quick and as conveniently as possible. We have opportunities to make revenues through lead generation, but that never stops us from showing a flight, even if the company money out of it. We've been doing it for quite a while, since the dot-com bust way back in 2001, 2002. But myself and my two co-founders, we were full-time on things come 2005 or so.
What is the big goal for the future, Gareth?
Well, at the moment we're just waiting to break through having 1 million people use our site in one day. And so we've got about 20 million unique visitors. App's been downloaded 7 million times. But what our goal is to become the default choice to find out long distance travel information. So we've been putting long distance rail routes on the site, and we'll keep doing that worldwide. And really it's about just making, the next big thing is we'll turn the search into free text and faceted search, so that people have got so used to search controls being like the classic Expedia format. But that's not how you search for a book or a camera. So there's a few challenges, but that's where we're heading for.
Fantastic. One thing we think is really interesting is you've recently got an office in Singapore.
Yeah.
How have you found that experience doing business in a foreign country?
It's been really exciting. I think the biggest benefit is the guy who moved out there with his wife to set up the Singapore office had been working with us for 3 years, so he knows Skyscanner and can tolerate some of our failings and leverage some of the things we're good at. And then once we're out there, we've recruited locally, and we've set things up in a similar way to how we have them in Edinburgh, which is a lot of people of a lot of different nationalities. I think there's something like 35 different nationalities working for Skyscanner here in Singapore, and it's gone really well. We're in a serviced office, and we're sort of growing out of space there, so we're going to find a permanent space, probably in Chinatown in Singapore, and it's really exciting. And it's tough having lunch with the team there, 30 degrees, clear blue sky, and I'm looking at my phone and it's saying 7 degrees in Edinburgh, so yeah, can be tough to come back sometimes.
Yeah. Coming back to Edinburgh, where we are today, what for the community watching this in Edinburgh, what do you think is the real strength of doing business in Edinburgh from a tech standpoint?
I don't think this was the case when we first started in Edinburgh, but now there is a really deep and well-connected tech community in Edinburgh. I think Appleton Tower and the Edinburgh University Computer Science and Informatics and Business departments had a big role to play in that. But I think Edinburgh is way above average in being well-connected and supportive of each other. And I think that makes the most of the fact that we're big enough here to have a lot of talent, and we're small enough to have a good sense of community. So.
And regards to the government, Gareth, what's your thoughts in terms of their role to play in helping young startups in the tech community?
Well, I think clearly through the university, the government played a strong role there, and I think that kind of gets to the key of things, which is it's got to come through a quite skilled and knowledgeable channel. For what it's worth, I'd encourage the government to funnel money through things like TechCube in Edinburgh, and people who are wanting to get things started off their own back and provide support. You know, maybe match any company that's willing to sponsor or support a startup event or group, they should automatically match fund if possible.
One thing we should say for the viewers back home, the feedback we've had on our travels so far is the great work that Skyscanner are doing with the organic tech community, with the association with Tech Meetup, etc. What was your thinking behind doing things like that?
Well, that's really, really great to hear. I think it comes down to the main, I can justify it in terms of benefit to Skyscanner, but really the main motivation is that people at Skyscanner have been through that stage where you need to build up the confidence. You don't know whether what your idea has legs. You don't know whether you're going to sort of match up and be able to do it. And so it's kind of a feeling of empathy, really. And that feeling never goes away. You know, we've reached a certain level, but I still want to do it times 10. So all the challenges around doing it times 10 are there. But equally, I think it's good for Edinburgh and it's good for the tech community to be participating in startup and businesses that are predicated on the software they build, whether it's web software or not. And it's a much healthier thing for a tech person to be directly involved in what the business is doing rather than being part of an IT department. So I think the more people there are that get to apply their trade outside of an IT department, the better. We've had a couple of people at Skyscanner who've started up companies, TweetSport and Matiogi, and I really like the fact that people will go on from Skyscanner and do their own startup.
That's fantastic. What's your thoughts, Gareth? We were speaking earlier off camera about culture. Again, so far we've had a strong message that's kind of come back to us about culture is so important in companies, and the talk of exits is almost diluting the message of a company's culture. We seem to be very focused on exits in Europe, whereas perhaps in the States they're more about building out the companies.
Yeah.
And you seem to be a very strong advocate in building Skyscanner to be a company that's going to be around for a long time. What do you think Britain needs to? How do you think we're going to be able to replicate that kind of culture in America? How are we going to do that?
I'm a big believer that you've got to. That it will come about by seeing examples around you. So there were companies like Atlantic and Indigo Vision in Edinburgh that I looked up to, DNS, and learned from, went along to hear them speak, and aspired basically to beat them in certain senses, just out of competitiveness and drive and that sort of thing. But they were very sharing about their experiences. And I think that's the main thing that will achieve it, is there being bigger and bigger web companies in Scotland, UK, Europe, and then other people aspiring to that and greater. The other thing is, I strongly believe that funding and exit are not the motivations for what you're doing, and are side activities, however much of your time you might take up. But sometimes you can see that being sort of the raison d'etre of a startup. And then the other thing is to go against trend and say, well, what is it that would stop us being a global company with a globally recognized website, a top 100 website in the world, say? So spend time trying to figure out what would our traffic level need to be to get there. And I think not having Twitter next door, it has disadvantages and advantages, but one of the disadvantages is you can't sort of achieve a certain limited success and then think you're God's gift, because you've got Twitter next door, you're doing 10 times better. So the greatest success will breed success, so I would guess.
Fantastic. And regards to culture, Gareth, how do you keep that fresh in Skyscanner? That's surely something that's got to be on your mind quite a lot.
Well, it's kind of It's an interesting one because before I started with Barry and Bonamy Skyscanner, I'd never managed a single person, for instance. I was a developer, so I didn't have prior experience to work on. I think I've always read pretty widely and tried to absorb best practice from where I can on the web and various books. But I think part of it is my instinct is that we are in many senses still a startup, and therefore what are the appropriate things for a startup, despite the fact that we've got 140 people. And there's certain things that when you've got that many people, you need to sort of put reminders in. You need someone in charge of saying, for instance, we had a bake-off yesterday and competition with cocktails afterwards. Well, that requires more organisation. But as long as other people are interested in keeping that feeling going, then that can be achieved.
It's fantastic. I'd like to say thank you very much for your time. It's been a real pleasure meeting you.
Really great to meet you, and good luck on your tour.
Cheers.
It's great what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.